Hello, welcome. I am here with Chef Anthony Deanna from Michelle's Catering, and he is going to talk to us today about cooking and conversation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Monica Smith, our Chief External Affairs and Operations Officer here at the partnership, and I am so looking forward to cooking and conversation, Chef Anthony. How about you?
Oh my God, I can't wait. It literally is one of my favorite things that I love doing with you folks.
What
So
I
much
love
fun.
is November 20th. It's a week before Thanksgiving, and I
Yeah.
think most people struggle. Like what do you make? How do you make it a little different? And cooking and conversation really brings that creativity.
Yeah, and it gives the opportunity to ask some questions that, I mean, of course, we can always search everything on the web, right? But sometimes you just enjoy a question and an answer. So we love that the crowd is always so interactive and always asking great questions. And I love to be of any service that I can.
And I had to tell you, Chef Anthony, you were just amazing last year. Everybody just loved your energy, loved the recipes. So, as a chef, what do you love to cook the most?
So it's probably one of the most difficult questions to answer. However, what I will tell you is a couple of things. The number one thing that I love to cook is what people love to eat. And I know that's kind of like the corporate canned answer, right? Because it doesn't really matter what I love because we're cooking for people at all times. But with that said, I really, one of my favorite things is to cook Thanksgiving Day meal. I think it is one of the most amazing holidays that everybody gets to join and celebrate together. And the food is always abundant and there's really no rules, right? We all have our yes, we should have turkey and we should, but there's always these phenomenal spins that take on from whether it's someone's favorite family recipe or whatever it may be, that always make its way to the dinner table at some point. But for me personally, what I personally love to cook, it has everything to do with Sunday dinner. Just give me my gravy, my meatballs, sausage, brajol, chicken cutlets, all those things that brings family to the table, and everybody gets to sit and enjoy. So those are the two things that are without question my favorite things to actually cook for people without question.
It's not, I may have to invite myself over on a Sunday because that
Yeah.
sounds delicious.
And you know what the best part is that that's exactly what Sunday dinner is, and especially in our family and our traditions in our house. If you're around and somebody pops in, there's always enough food, and you eat at 3 o'clock on Sunday when typically every other day during the week you eat at 12 o'clock, right? So you're welcome anytime, along with anybody else.
You better be careful with that invitation. But
Yeah.
so there's the love of that dish, but really
Hmm.
what spurred your love of cooking? Because to devote your career to being a
Yeah.
chef takes a lot of energy, a lot of heart, and a lot of passion.
Yeah, it does, and it really is it is a love. And the one thing that I can tell you that makes everything great for us is when I see empty plates. So, we're an off-premise caterer, so 90% of the time we're going to wherever the event actually is. And my staff and servers will, they'll always bring stuff back and said, "Oh, chef, oh my God, everybody's loving everything." And those are all wonderful words. But until I see the plates that come through the kitchen, as long as they're clean, then I know we did a great job. So that's where that fuel comes from because you're able to cook for people, and it really is one of the greatest things to see people smile and enjoy all that you've put and all the effort, and it's immediate. You can tell. I mean, you yourself or anyone that's watching, you've had a meal where you just didn't love it, and maybe you don't make a big stink, but you just kind of push it off to the side. And then there's other meals that you've licked the plate clean. Though that's what keeps us fueled. That keeps our energy going, and that's what makes me the happiest. And that's why I do it every week. The other part is every event we do is different. That's the other
Mm.
thing. So it's never ever the same thing.
But I think our event's your favorite, right?
Well, I mean, that goes without saying. There's your event, and then there's everything else that we do at Michelle's
Of
Catering, of
course.
course.
I mean, to cook at the museum, nice
Yeah,
tasting. Yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty nice.
Wonderful guests, and just completely always just a great event, and always very proud and honored to be part of it.
Nice. So, as somebody who openly admits to being challenged in the kitchen,
Yeah.
what is the biggest mistake you see home cooks make when trying to cook a meal?
Yeah, it's easy. Overcooking, always overcooking, and that's for so many different reasons. Because so many recipes will say, make sure your chicken is at 168, make sure your steak is at 142, and most people don't really follow that. They look and they say it looks done or it should be done by now. One of the tips that I would offer to that is undercook everything. and then finish it in the oven. So if you're grilling a beautiful piece of meat or some steak, anything along those lines, and you're actually just, you're not certain, go sooner, right? Be done with it soon because you can always fix it in the oven or fix it on the grill. What you can't do is you can't take away a just totally overcooked piece of meat. It's done. It's meat. It's gone too far. So I, the two things that I see most often are, without question, overcooking stuff, and then not cooking at the proper temperature. Like if the recipe says cook at 350, cook at 350, or if it says at 450, cook at 450. Don't be afraid. There's a reason why you're supposed to do it at 450. So those would be two tips that I would give you at home.
Nice. Those are great tips. We are at a time where people are really struggling, and we're excited because Kieran Handa Guarioso, who
Mhm.
is the CEO of the United Way of Northern New Jersey, she's also the
Yes.
president of United for Alice, which is really looking to, help the people kind of caught in the middle financially, struggling here in New Jersey. She's going to be our guest. So we're really energized by that conversation. And we see right in our own organization, so many of the families we serve are struggling. Whether you're middle class, whether you have a lower income, or even just people who feel overstretched by expenses, this is a real concern. And
Yeah.
food is a big concern. So what are some tips that you would say that somebody who's struggling, how can you make a meal last longer? Are there shopping tips that you have for somebody who's trying to shop on a budget but eat healthy?
Yeah. Yeah, and everything you just said is just, it's horrific. That being said, there are solutions, right? There's solutions that we can immediately handle ourselves. And one of the things is, I would say, to start off with, when you're thinking, when that's your mindset and you're faced with having to feed your family of four and it's for dinner. So you have to get a good foundation to work with. And we also need substance, right? It can't just be bread. So I would say start with great things like pastas, rices, beans. Those are really good starting places because that will help bulk up the meal. It'll help fill empty stomachs, as well as give you some opportunities for a variety to spin off of. What immediately comes to mind is, as an example, would be like a Mexican style. And actually, I've done this in the past, so don't hold me to it. But I've looked at this in the past because we've often had conversations about this. For a family of four, if you went to any grocery store USA and you had to purchase things, if you purchased one box of Spanish yellow rice, one can of black beans, one family pack of chicken thighs, a salsa jar, a little thing of sour cream, a little thing of shredded yellow cheddar cheese. What else would I want to put in there? Maybe some shredded lettuce. Get one of those taco kits. Put that all together. Make yourself a beautiful taco night, right? And you've got everything because those taco kits come with hard shells, soft shells. They come with their own flavor packets. So all of that is around $35. Now, $35 is still $35. I don't care who you are, right?
Mhm.
But if I can tell you that for $17.50, that you can feed your family of four tonight, and then with what's left over from that meal, why don't you make a beautiful casserole bake? Take every ingredient you just had. Take the rice, take the cheese, take the salsa, put it all into a casserole dish, throw it in the oven at 400 degrees, and let it bake off. And now you've got two meals from one shopping trip. And by the way, those meals are filled with fabulous carbohydrates, starches. Produce gives you your vegetables with tomatoes and the salsa. Anything that you can make fresh is always going to be better for your internal body. So it's wonderful to get a quick thing of salsa on the off the shelf. Simple, it's easy, right? It's a couple bucks, but so are a couple dollars worth of tomatoes, and just chop
Mhm.
them up and put a little salt and pepper. It's fresh, it tastes amazing, and it's just better for you. But anyway, point of your question, what can you do if you shop in a way where you have a, I guess my actual advice would be, pick a recipe, determine what else you can get from the ingredients that you're using, and would it make sense to purchase the larger box of rice if I'm going to do it for 2 days? Because if the
Mhm.
one box of rice is $2.29 and maybe the larger one is 450, maybe that makes more economical sense for you and your family. And in which case, then you can work on making sure that you're feeding everybody for two. But that's a small example. But when you have that with the beans and the rice, and these are all really good things that, especially young bodies, are required to make sure that they have a healthy, productive day.
That's great advice. And I think, you know, a lot of the ingredients you named are also shelf stable products. So you
Yes.
can keep them on hand, which makes things a little bit easier. And, you
Yeah.
know, I agree with you. I think what's happening, you know, to so many families right now, we're the richest country and people are starving and it's really
Yeah.
unacceptable. And I know for us, we have been operating our free farmers market in Dover monthly. And we work with a lot of great partners, Table to Table, Zufall Health,
Yeah.
you know, the church locally in Dover, Local Share, and these groups that help us really make sure that once a month we can get those fresh fruits, vegetables,
Yeah.
and pantry staples to families. But even we saw last week that there was a really increased need in a lot of new faces. So,
Yeah.
you know, we always want to be mindful of that. And that's why I'm really looking forward to the conversation with Karen Handa Guadioso with Marie
Yeah.
Carl, because to really talk about the people who are struggling and how do we help and how do we kind of make change here. But I'm going to kind of stick to your topic a little, you know,
Sure.
leftovers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, especially with Thanksgiving coming, how do we make leftovers a little more interesting? How do we make leftovers last longer? What's your secret tip for those leftovers, whether it's for Thanksgiving or from your Sunday sauce,
Yeah.
or whatever is going on? Or do you say gravy? I've been raised to say sauce, but
I,
there's a lot of people who say gravy.
I've always been raised as a gravy guy. It's like come over for a pot of gravy. It's the age old argument. It's so highlighted in New Jersey. The actual culinary term, though, for what it's worth, from a culinary perspective, it is sauce until you add meat to something, in which case then it becomes gravy. So if I'm making pasta with just a beautiful tomato sauce, that's exactly what it is. But if I'm going to make a big pot of sauce and add meatballs and sausage and braciole, it then technically becomes gravy, but still, no one will ever win that. It's Taylor ham and pork roll, right? It's a conversation that no one will ever win.
I mean,
But
that's a fun fact. I never knew that about adding meat. So I learn something new every day.
yeah, that's the actual culinary perspective. So, but to answer your question, I think from a leftover perspective, I think the key factor with leftovers is use them quickly. Don't let them hang around. And sometimes you mentioned there, you asked and said, well, how to make it creative or what can we do creatively? I ask why. If it was good on Tuesday night, why not enjoy it on Thursday night? I'm okay with it. If I had, grilled chicken with, some fresh carrots and a cup of rice, and there happened to be some chicken and carrots and rice left over, why not just heat that up and enjoy it for dinner? With that said, could you get fancy and, maybe add a new sauce or new ingredients? But from an economical standpoint, go back to what I mentioned earlier, which is you had one group, right? We're going to add money now if I have to add tomatoes and I have to add cheese and I have to add, again, I think that's all wonderful. And if you have the means and the ability to do it, or if you have the product to do it, go ahead and get as creative as you'd like. But don't be ashamed to have the same meal and within a 3 or 4 day range. Why not? Or get some wraps or make a sandwich or make a bake. I mean, the casserole thing, right back in the 50s and 60s, I think, well before you and I. But it was those one pot dishes, right? They would just take anything they had left over, put it in a casserole, put it in the oven, and poof, you had dinner. So
Right.
I'd keep it simple, I guess, is my point.
So with Thanksgiving coming up, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish and why?
So on my Thanksgiving Day table, we have turkey, we have stuffing, we have broccoli cheese casserole, and we have fresh cranberry sauce. My absolute favorite dish has everything to do with that, but nothing to do with it on the day. The next day, I enjoy cold turkey. I have to have country white butter bread, the thick, white, squishy, yummy pieces, right? Country white butter bread, mayo on the bottom, then turkey, then a layer of stuffing, then the broccoli cheese casserole, then the cranberry sauce, then mayo on top. It's this big. It You cut it in quarters. That's what I do. I cut it in quarters, so I feel like I'm not being a total pig, but it is without question the absolute thing I look for. What tryptophan, I think it is. I am in tryptophan hell for the entire weekend after Thanksgiving, and I'm happy to do it. So I, Leftover turkey sandwich. Immediate answer, but I had to describe it for
You
you.
know what? That does sound delicious. Although I will say I am a canned cranberry person
Yeah.
all day long. I will
And,
always
and
go for the canned cranberry, the nice slices all day long.
and I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I would also say to you, a bag of cranberries is 99 cents or maybe $1.99. Take that, put it on the stove top with a little bit of water, a little bit of orange juice, and let it blister down. Add a little sugar, and poof, you have the most amazing cranberry sauce you'll ever have. And
Nice.
it is that easy without all those horrible ingredients that are in most, shelf stable products.
Excellent. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I know there's going to be a lot more to come on
Yeah.
November 20th at the Morris Museum. We are so excited that you're joining us. I can't wait to taste the food, and I can't wait for the amazing conversation with Marie
Yes.
Carl. So thank you for being here, Chef Anthony. And
Thank you.
Chef Anthony from Michelle's Catering, check them out. And also check out pmch.org/cooking, Cooking and Conversation, November 20th. Tickets are going fast, and we hope to see you there. Funds raised will support our community programs. So thank you, Chef Anthony.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me and giving us the opportunity.
Oh, always.
We'll
Have a
see you
great
on the
day.
20th.
Oh, definitely.
You got
Bye.
it. Thanks.